Okay, everyone, our panel is now as complete as it is going to be. You may notice there are only 4 people. The person from the Minnesota Historical Society was not able to join us, and we have a last-minute swap for the student panelist. This is Ashley. So I want to thank you all for being here, and I especially want to thank our panelists for being here, especially considering the weather outside and the roads and all that good stuff. We are excited that you're here and that you are ready to share your tips with us. Just a reminder that this event is good advice and good information for any job fair that you're going to be attending. So whether or not you're going to the fair on February 21st, it's good advice and good tips. We have a lot of events to help you prepare for this fair or your job and internship search in general. So if you didn't grab the brightly colored handouts on the table on the way out, please feel free to do so. And then at the very end of the panel is when we will announce the door prize winners. So you filled out your name on the little note card, and they are drawing them as we speak. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. I would just like the panelists to introduce themselves. For the employers, say a little bit about your role and your organization. And for everybody, say a little bit about what your experiences have been in going to job fairs. Whoever wants to start.
I guess I can start. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Checco, and I am a regional recruiter for Auto Owners Insurance Company. We are a property and casualty provider. We do not do any sales. We are based out of Lansing, Michigan. We have operations in 26 states, one of those being Minnesota. I office out of Lake Elmo. My experience going to career fairs would be for the past year and a half, I've attended the majority of the ones in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Huang. I am a senior marketing major. I have worked at the Career Development Center for the last 4 years, so you guys might have seen me in my face in the office. But I've attended the past 2 job fairs, and I'll be attending this one coming up here too.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie Davich. I'm the campus recruiter for SPS Commerce. We are headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. Basically, we are a supply chain management company that's focused on the documents that go into the retail world. So every single purchase order, a shipping notice, an acknowledgement form, we are an EDI provider that allows those parties of a retailer and supplier to just seamlessly exchange those documents. Being the campus recruiter for about 3.5 or so years, I've gone to a lot of career fairs. I've done a lot of these panels, a lot of resume reviews, so happy to kind of help and give some advice there. But I've probably gone to about 50 or so career fairs, maybe, a lot. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Brian Baumgartner. I work with the Account Temps division of Robert Half. I'm a little bit of a curveball from the rest of the crew we have up here. Just Robert Half, we specialize in placing skilled professionals for companies across the Twin Cities, and actually we're global as an organization. So we do contract positions, temporary to hire, direct hire positions, a lot of internship-related roles, part-time and full-time for students in school, summers, J-terms, after school. But Robert Half, we focus more in the corporate type positions. So if you're interested in a future career within HR or accounting and finance, IT, administrative, clerical, supply chain, legal, creative, more of those corporate type positions, we build relationships with companies all throughout the Twin Cities, and they reach out to us in turn for different needs and hiring throughout the landscape. So I've been with the company for a little over 8 years, and done my fair share of interviewing and hiring and firing and career fairs as well. So looking forward to give you guys any tips I can.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So I have all of the questions that you all submitted in advance. And we're going to try to get through as many of them as we possibly can today. So we're going to start with one that's a little bit more for the employers. From an employer's perspective, can you give an example of what's impressed you the most from a career fair candidate?
So one of my favorite things that people do is just come prepared. And I mean that of being able to take the time to understand what jobs are posted, sometimes even if you feel like you're not qualified and just want to be like, oh, tell me about this sales job, or just tell me a little bit more about this. I see that it's looking for this certain qualifications or this skill set. That just shows me that you've already taken that time, and I just really appreciate people that do that. And so it's kind of one of those where it really doesn't take that long. I mean, we don't expect you to do full-on extensive research about our entire like financial data or whatnot, but just kind of taking the time to just go on our website, whether you understand it or don't, or just want to have those questions prepared that I can kind of help answer at the fair. Really makes people kind of stand out, and I usually remember people that can at least remember some sort of thing that we kind of talked about of what you know about SPS or whatnot. So.
I can add to that as well. I would also say I'm really impressed when people come up with confidence. I know that people tend to think that these things are, nerve-wracking, and it's perfectly fine and perfectly normal to be nervous. But when people walk up and they're confident and they shake your hand and they look you in the eye, that is impressive. So I would never underestimate that first impression that you're going to give off. It goes a long way. If somebody walks up and they're staring at my shoes, it just doesn't go well. So be confident in yourself. Remember, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. But I would say confidence, in my opinion, does go a long way, and it shows when you walk up to a table.
Yeah, I'd certainly echo the confidence comments Mark mentioned. And with that confidence, also just, I think being just naturally curious is perfectly fine. You're new to this. There's so many opportunities and so many possibilities for you. You invested a lot of time into your education that it's exciting for those to come and want to know more. And if you have any questions, the people that you're meeting with, they can certainly provide advice as well. But I think those coming prepared with a resume and the eye contact and the confidence in that first 30 seconds is extremely important.
Okay, excellent. So the next question, also a little bit more for employers. How much will my GPA matter? And what if my GPA isn't above a 3.0? Should I still be including it on my resume?
I think this is a very tricky question just because at SPS we don't care what your GPA is, but it's hard to know which companies do care and which don't. If you have a 3.0 or above, I would put it on there. If you don't, I don't recommend it. But it's one of those where regardless, we don't really take that into consideration, where I know some companies out there take it very seriously. And so it's one of those where it's better safe than sorry, I suppose, but I don't recommend if it's less than 3.0. If it is, we would like to see like leadership roles or extracurricular activities or studying abroad, something that basically shows maybe why it's not as high as it maybe is or it should be. And it's one of those two where be prepared potentially if it is a 2.7, why that might be and kind of how you've been able to learn from that, or kind of just so we have some confidence in knowing that still academics is important and work is kind of important too, and just kind of having that balance a little bit. I mean, things happen and that's okay too, but just kind of look out for that.
I'm not sure I can add to that.
We speak with so many different companies. I think in general, most companies, GPA is more of a bonus. If you have a high GPA, you certainly want to showcase that, and I think that's a nice selling point for you and your background. Holistically, I don't know if the GPA is going to be in the top 5 or 6 things most companies will look for. As mentioned, the extracurriculars, leadership, internships, systems and softwares you've learned in school. It really does depend on the role that you're applying to and applying for. But yeah, I'd say a good rule of thumb is 3.0 is kind of the threshold to showcase or not.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, I think maybe everybody can comment on. Is it rude to have an extensive conversation with an employer if there's a line of people waiting to speak with them?
I'll start on that. I guess extensive is going to be defined differently by everybody, but I would say no longer than 5 minutes at the table. Maybe you stood in line just as long, and for you to feel like you need to leave just because there's a line behind you, maybe you're going to get shortchanged there. But I guess my rule of thumb is usually 5 minutes. If there's a line of people, most people understand that. And I guess, is it rude? I don't know if it's really rude or not. Not in my eyes, because I'm going to be there talking all the afternoon anyway, so.
Just to add off of that, I also think if you find that you still want to talk to the employer and there's still more you want to say, maybe asking for contact information. If you want to maybe grab a coffee with them, usually they're more than open to do that for you guys. I know you obviously want to extend the conversation, but out of courtesy and respect for their time, as well as your other fellow fairgoers, so that they can also have a conversation with the employers as well.
Yeah, following up, just asking what's the best method for next steps to follow up with additional questions or comments, and each person that you speak with is probably going to be in a slightly different position or situation, time crunch. So I'll let you best know, but I'd say do your best to read the room. If the person you're speaking with is looking off into the distance and a little frantic about short answers, things like that, that's probably a good sign that it might be time to wrap things up and move along.
I'd also piggyback it off too, that maybe towards the end of the fair, or when there are some downtimes where you notice that company's line isn't as long, I mean, it's okay. I've had people just come back and want to continue the conversation too, where it's not as long, but certainly asking for contact information just to set up additional time to make sure all your questions are answered and whatnot, I think is appropriate as well.
All right, so the next question's kind of a big one, big, broad one. How can I help myself stand out at a career fair?
Go ahead.
Broad.
There's so many different ways to take that answer, but I think putting on a nice suit and ensuring it's pressed and presentation is a piece of it, but ultimately doing the research, being open-minded, having an understanding. You don't have to know exactly the specific role that you want to take on, but the more you know yourself, your strengths, things that you like to do, the more you can bring that to the table and let that employer know where you are and let them showcase to you where you may fit with them. But I think ultimately those that are confident, going back to the confidence piece, and taking, I think oftentimes you see people kind of huddled in groups, and it's really easy to go with friends and be with your friends more so than being engaged with the different companies. But the more that you're in there for business and your career and your future, the more that shows through. Even when you're not speaking with an employer, that you get noticed in the room. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly the confidence piece. I kind of touched on the research piece. That's one that just absolutely stands out. Having the confidence, knowing about the roles. I've seen people have customized resumes. I mean, that's really above and beyond for like every certain employer that they are interested in kind of moving forward with. Looking at that job description of maybe a certain job and tailoring some of those keywords, which you should be doing when you apply, for sure. So I've had some people do that. We're certainly in like an objective line of working at SPS Commerce for what X position or whatnot. We're probably like the main ones. Otherwise, it's certainly just highlighting really the top skills that you feel like an employer would want to know about, whether that is that leadership skills or whether it's a certain technical skill set or whatnot, having that really highlighted in some of those main bullet points of each work experience or an internship experience, and kind of keeping it to that one page to be able to talk about like the high level when we're actually at the fair kind of together or like at the same booth just talking about your experience. So really highlighting those top ones and being able to be confident in sharing of like, in my internship I did X and that's my first bullet point, and kind of just being, I guess, prepared kind of with that.
I would also say, tying into doing your research, also going to the website of the specific employers, if it's like the top 5 that you're interested in. A lot of the time the careers or the applications are online nowadays, so going in, possibly applying then and there, and then stating the next day at the fair that you said that you had applied, and maybe asking specific questions that I applied, what can I go forward looking on. maybe questions that you might have about that specific position. That just shows that you're interested in their company, but also that specific position so that they know and they can keep an eye on that resume, looking on for that specific position as well.
Yeah, I really don't have too much to add to everything that they've said. But one of the things that I can tell that makes people really stand out is when they're dishonest about themselves or dishonest about a question. Like in my industry, where we aren't a household name, and I say that to a lot of students. Most people probably don't even know who we are, yet we've been around for 103 years. We've got all these accolades. And when I say, oh, have you heard of Auto Owners Insurance before? And they'll look me in the eye and be like, I think so. And it's a yes or no question. It's not an I think so. So right there, it's like, just be honest, be yourself. Those are very simple things to do. We don't want to hear fluff. It's okay if you've never heard of us. Maybe I picked you out of line. You were standing at the table next to me and I just pulled you out because I thought, just to talk to you. It's okay. Just be honest. Again, everything that they've said, I'll just add that to it. It's okay if you don't know who somebody is.
That is excellent advice. Thank you.
I'll add to that because sometimes that happens with me too. So then I'll be like, what do you know about us? And then it's pretty
Awkward.
yeah, that you don't know about us. And so be cautious of that. So if you do, maybe say it. I'll be like, all right, tell us what you know. And then we'll see the true colors. So yeah.
Thank you. Ashley, this question I think is a little bit more for you. How many companies should I plan on talking to at the fair?
I think that really varies. I know you should definitely use your time wisely. I know in the past that I've looked at the list that we have on the MNPC job fair site that shows what companies and organizations are going to be there. And then I maybe made a list of 10 great companies that I want to definitely talk to at the fair. And prior to that, I made sure that I did that research, looked at their website, made sure that I knew 3 key points, maybe had questions specifically for the employers, maybe applied for positions on their site while I'm doing that research. But I know your time is definitely what's most important, as well as the employer, so making sure that you're hitting up the companies that you most want to meet with.
Do any of you others have anything to add?
The only advice I usually give with that is in that list, there's tons of employers. We expect you that you can't talk to every single one of them. But when I was in school, I went to some of my first few companies that I went to were ones I kind of just knew I just didn't really want to maybe go there of just sort of an industry or whatnot, just after doing my full research and still keeping an open mind. So I kind of went to there first just to get my jitters out and just practice my elevator pitch and just trying to continue to kind of just develop that skill set and then go to the companies that, I really, really wanted to go to. I don't recommend going straight to your number one choice right away. I mean, if you want to, go for it, but I just suggest kind of talking it out to a couple other employers first, just to kind of continue to know what you're going to talk about and gain that confidence. But that was just kind of me.
Yeah, I'd say be open. I mean, this is your time. You're investing a lot of time to get where you are. So if the career fair is 2 hours, hopefully you can carve out some time to be there for the 2 hours, however long it may be. You're taking breaks so you feel good about being fresh and ready to speak to people. But shoot, there's not an often, once you're out of college, there's not many opportunities to have so many neat companies and employers all under one roof. So even if you don't know anything about a company, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a conversation. It might improve, your skills, as mentioned, warm you up for the next person you want to speak with, or maybe you learn something exciting about a company you knew nothing about, and there's a lot of potential. There's so many jobs out there that aren't commonly discussed by professors and instructors, and it's daunting. The Twin Cities Metro is one of the best in the entire U.S., so you guys are in a great spot if you're looking to stay locally. But I think the more open you can be and the more people, more companies you can meet with, the better. It makes you more knowledgeable on what's all out there.
Thank you. So next, as an employer, is there anything specific that you look for when screening candidates at the fair?
I didn't get my turn to talk, so I will. So we actually do not recruit based upon major, which is kind of odd. We get a lot of people walking up to us thinking it's strictly math, strictly business, And that's so far from the truth. We've got history majors, we've got teachers, we've got meteorologists, or whatever that one is. There's all sorts of different degrees at Auto Owners Insurance, and that's strategic because we have so many different divisions of our company, and we promote strictly from within. So for us just to have accounting majors or finance majors wouldn't do us any good. But what we look for when it comes to candidates is communication skills and a willingness to learn is really what we're looking for. Because when we aren't looking one particular major, we need more of a mold. And if you can come up to the table, again, like I said earlier, show confidence, but you can communicate. The insurance industry is a very much a relationship industry. So we need to know that right off the bat, that you can communicate. And if you can do that, you're already standing above others.
What was the question again?
The question was, as an employer, what do you look for when you're screening candidates at the fair?
Yeah, it's tricky. I feel like I don't want to be too repetitive, but in screening candidates, I think it really is just showcasing your excitement, and the communication skills are very important, but just your excitement to want to get out there and work, and said it earlier, just being naturally curious as to what opportunities are out there. And shoot, you can, we're sitting up here on a panel just wanting to give as much advice as possible. Most people that you meet with are very open to sharing that as well. So I think just being you is very important. Being honest, things that have been mentioned, I guess.
Yeah, I think like the main competencies are like obviously the communication. Can you have a conversation? Can you be articulate about your experience and sharing that, as well as sometimes people don't know what they want to do. Like for SPS, people are not leaving school dying to sell EDI solutions. But it's kind of like, do you like to problem solve? Do you like to build relationships with customers? So if I ask kind of what are you looking to do, it's kind of like what maybe skill sets are you looking to develop? And so I kind of look for people that like that problem solving, love to learn, that natural curiosity is huge for us. So on our website, we have 10 core company values. I do share with them at the fair as well. Those are basically what we're looking for. And so having in a communicative standpoint of just like at the fair, just talking, that's pretty much what I'm going to be looking for to kind of stand out too, is what you want to do as well, and making sure there's that great match. So.
All right. So this particular fair runs from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So this next question, is there a best time of day to attend the job fair? And how much would you say is the right amount of time to spend at the job fair?
I would use all the time. I don't know if there's really a best time to exactly go. Every single fair that I went, I took advantage all of the 9 to 2 or whatnot time frame. I think mine was actually 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So mine went very long, but it's just one of those where I wanted to know kind of all those employers and get to know all those different opportunities. So I don't know.
I agree. I think you should use all the time. I know the fair is from 9 to 2, and if you think about it, the time zips by, and there's a lot of employers there, and you want to make sure you grab all those opportunities. As far as best time during the 9 to 2 time frame, I know in the morning it's usually a busy time. A lot of students are coming off the shuttle. They're fresh and they have a lot of energy, so that's usually the time that there's a lot of lines or the lines build up. But I still think that that's a great time to meet with the employers, make those first impressions. I know around the before lunchtime / after lunchtime, they start to get hungry. I know the employers, they've been standing around talking to a lot of people, so they might not have as much energy, but that also might be a time where the lines might not be that long. So also staying consistent and maybe meeting with them again if do you want to continue that conversation like before. But I would, again, stay the entire time.
And it's perfectly fine to take some breaks in there as well. I'm about as extroverted as they come, and even I need to sometimes step away a little bit to collect my thoughts or whatever that may be. So it's not to say you need to be talking to people from 9 to 2 p.m., but I think the more intentional you can be about being there and connecting with as many people as possible, the better. the Twin Cities, it's large, but at the same time, it's not that big. So a lot of people are connected in the business community, and good people know good people, and it really does help. Your connections can really help get you in the door at different places, and just having all of these people in one place is a great opportunity to take advantage of that.
The only thing I'm going to add to it is I'll say do not feel bad if you are there at 2 o'clock still. I'm sure we all can say this. You get the student that walks up to you right at the end, and the first thing they say is, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. There is no reason to be sorry that you're there. We know why you're there, so do not feel bad for being the last person at the table.
One thing to add too is I don't know if this is just me, but I tend to remember people either right in the beginning and right at the end, because having to talk to so many people around lunchtime, it's just one after another. We're in the mornings where not everybody flocks to the event at that one time, where if I am having one-on-one more conversations, and then it's the people that feel bad being at the end that want to leave, I remember those people because they wanted to stay and really continue the conversation. So maybe that could be a beneficial favor.
And when you do narrow down your top 5, 10, whatever it may be, companies that you do have interest in, I really like the idea of circling back to, there's no wrongdoing in circling back, especially with the line shorter, to have a closure or even just a thank you, in-person thank you for the time. I think that goes a long way and helps reinforce and remind them, hey, I talked to you earlier and you liked me. I know you did. Like, whatever. But it wouldn't hurt.
Okay, thank you. So this next question, what do you listen for in a student's introduction or elevator pitch? And Ashley, maybe a little bit about what your experience has been in approaching employers at the fair.
Yeah, I think firstly making eye contact and then having a really strong handshake is really key. But then as far as an elevator pitch, I think starting off with your name and then your education, your major, but also stating those important key points of who you are and what you value and want in a internship or job. I think that really resonates with the employer and kind of gets an idea of what you're trying to seek out from them, but maybe if this is a right spot or position for you, I think that's really important as far as making sure that your elevator pitch is clear but also concise, and you're not rambling too much. But I know, and then there's definitely a lot you can say about yourself, but making sure that you're getting those key points out there to them.
One thing I find myself consistently asking is, so what is it that you're looking for? Because they've done a great job preparing everything about them and their education, but they've failed to say, I'm looking for a full-time job, or I'm looking for an internship. So I would just let them know I'm seeking a summer internship, because I think that's probably my number one follow-up question is, how can I help you? I mean, what is it that we're looking for?
I think the more you can be prepared with the why behind your answers is also extremely important. Whatever you may be interested in is one thing, but really understanding why you're interested in that one thing really helps the employers get a good idea and understanding as to who you are and what you're looking for, to help guide the conversation for them, to let you know if they can provide that or not, and give you other ideas. So.
Okay, so you mentioned this briefly earlier, but I want to circle back to it. How should I dress? Do you have any tips about attire for the fair?
You started it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think suit up, I guess. Put on something that you feel comfortable and confident in. I think appearance is a very small piece of it, but something that makes you feel good. I'd certainly say if you have a coat and full suit, certainly that's the way to go, guys. Putting the tie on, and it itches the neck a little bit, but it looks good. Kidding. But no, that'd be my recommendation. Make sure you're obviously shower, all that stuff that beforehand. I think that goes without saying, but yeah, presentation is key, because those employers are looking at you and in turn visualizing you in their firm and their organization. So do you fit that mold or not, that first impression means a lot.
I'll usually remember the people that are wearing sweatpants and just rolled out of bed more than I would the person with the suit up, pretty much. But for ladies, you don't, I think I wore like just dress pants and a nice top and a jacket. I would not recommend your highest heel that you own. You know, we want you to be comfortable. There are certainly some women out there that choose to do that, which that's totally fine. But you're there for a long time usually. And, you know, we want you to be comfortable. So flats are just as fine, or a small little heel. Just recommend not the 5 inches or whatnot. Please.
I'll just add, have somebody look you over before you go. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen stickers on men's dress shirts on the back. I know they just bought it. The tags on the front of their jackets are still there. They're still pinned in the back. Maybe I'm just out of style, and maybe that's cool now, but I see it all the time. So just have somebody look you over to make sure that it is, you know, your Sunday best or whatever you want to call it, because those also stand out and are quite comical actually on our side.
I'll also add, just making sure, I know it's easy to kind of blend in with the common colors of gray, black, navy blue. But for guys and gals, if it's just like a blouse or an inside shirt, that maybe it pops, not like a neon pink or like a neon orange, but something that's a unique color that will maybe stand out from the navies, the blacks, the grays. Also, if you guys are interested in wearing heels, just maybe a tip, you can always take breaks and leave the main room of where the employers are and maybe take the heels off, bring an extra pair of flats. If you're interested in wearing heels, taking breaks from that, I think that's also a good tip to have.
I think adding to having someone look you over, just stopping in the restroom throughout the day a little bit and looking in the mirror to make sure you don't have anything in your teeth or your ties on straight, whatever that may be. And then guys, these little deals, you can rip them up. Normally when you get a new suit, there's little strings that are stuck together. Not everybody knows, but you want to take those out. I don't know why they do that in the first place, but they're in the back of most suits. So throw that plug in there to try to add value here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of having someone look you over, all of us at the Career Development Center, we're going to be at the table when you check in if you'd like some input from us or would like to check that vent, and we bring sewing kits and all that good stuff as well. So we're there to help with that too.
Can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
So some people get concerned of like not being able to really share their personality at career fairs when everybody dresses alike. And I know it's kind of tough, and whether it is your favorite color or like a nice cobalt blue top with a black jacket, that can maybe still show that personality. But I assure this at every single recruiting event and panel, because I will never forget it. But there was one person at a fair that was dressed very nice, like normal, traditional, maybe had like a unique tie, just nothing too crazy. But he had the tiniest mustache pin, and I will never forget it. It was very much his personality, real professional about it. You could barely see it. But I saw it, and I will never forget Parker at the career fair, who had the tiniest just little mustache pin, just wanted to show his personality. So it's okay to do things like that are just subtle, that kind of show, if you want, kind of your personality. So.
Guessing you hired him?
I did not. He was too young. Too young. I tried.
Okay. So just in general for the employers, how many people do you typically hire from the candidates you meet at the fair? Maybe a percentage or, yeah.
I'll jump into this one while you guys think about it. We're being a little bit of a curveball. We can essentially help all of you to some degree. Robert Half's been around for 70 years, and we haven't historically done a great job connecting with students and colleges because most of our time is spent meeting with business executives and HR directors. These individuals right here, meeting with on a very regular basis throughout the metro. So if you haven't yet, it certainly would make sense if you fit in those fields that I had mentioned, and feel free to ping me after, but we could place, if you haven't had a job yet, even if you have a job lined up for the fall or whatever it may be, or you have 2 days free during the semester, we could probably find a fit for you somewhere. So we're a little bit more unique than most in that regard. So
I don't know that we have a set percentage, but everybody I seem to talk to at the office says, oh yeah, I met so-and-so at that fair, or they pulled me aside, so I'd say ours is probably pretty high, but I don't have an idea of what that number is.
Maybe 25%, if I were to guess. We don't do a ton of hiring. We only have usually about 15 jobs in the summer. And we get a lot of people from referrals. So sometimes it depends on trying to track the source. If it was a career fair, or I could have met you at a fair, but then on your application, you could have been a referral. So I have a hard time trying to piece that. So I would just, if I were to guess, 25% maybe.
And I'll clarify mine, when I said pretty high, I mean not the people that stop up to our table, pretty high percentage of hiring them. I would say the people that get hired, pretty high, that we met them at a fair.
Okay. So what are the biggest benefits that you think students can gain from attending a career fair aside from an actual job or internship offer?
I would say a huge thing is networking. I know a lot of, there's a huge opportunity for networking because there are so many employers, but I would also say keeping in contact with these employers after you make that connection initially. Whether that's if you get hired or if you don't let that discourage you. I know sometimes at the time of the fair, there's not a lot of positions at the time, but maybe reconnecting next fall or next winter, just letting them know that, hey, I met you at the job fair, I just want to reconnect and let you know that I'm in the midst of looking for a full-time job, a part-time internship. I was wondering if there's anything available, or if we could sit down and have a conversation about opportunities.
Yeah, just learning what's all out there. There's so many possibilities. So the more you can learn about options that you have and different ideas, different companies, there's about every industry under the sun is in town somewhere. And a lot of people, I think, default to the large corporations just because there are so many Fortune 500 companies in town. But there's a lot of neat small to mid-sized businesses out there as well. I'm sure we'll probably get to it, but I mean, LinkedIn is such a great tool, and having this career fair to help with your networking, and couple that with follow-up email and adding them to your LinkedIn network is great. And then you have that warm contact already, as mentioned, saying, hey, we met at this fair, here's an update, or want to drop a note, whatever it may be. So.
Yeah, so certainly the networking, but I think the challenge with just networking is you have to follow through with it. I get so many people that say, oh yeah, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn and be a network connection, and then they like don't hear from them for like 5 years. And it's kind of like you want to kind of stay up to date with that person if you really want them to be a connection with you, because I just had somebody that just reached out. We've been in contact for 2 years now, still haven't been able to find the right fit. And she reached back out and she's like, I think I'm ready this time, and we have a different position for her. And now, because I've been able to work with her for so long, I'm going to more than likely go out of my way to try to get her a job as best as I can with a certain manager, because she's been so interested in SPS and been interested in what we do, than somebody that just wanted to connect and then just does nothing about it. So that's the hardest part. Is it's great to have us as resources, because I think you had mentioned it, that we're pretty close-knit. Like, we go to these things together, we talk to each other at the fairs, we know certain people's jobs, that if it's something that I maybe don't have and I really like you and we build this connection, I'm going to go to my other campus recruiter buddies and see if maybe they have something to kind of help you out. So just kind of take that into consideration, that you can network all you want and talk to people, but really be able to sit down, ask for coffee, get out of your shell, try to do something. I can set you up with a mentor at my office, just somebody you can connect with if you're interested in sales or whatnot. So just kind of maintain and actually keep up with that relationship if that's your goal, is to network and really get to know people.
Yeah, I'll just add the networking is a huge thing, but I would also say you're going to gain a lot of experience. I was saying before, as we were eating lunch, the more and more of these that I go to, I'm seeing more and more freshmen show up at, just to gain that experience, so that when their time is there, they know what to expect walking in. So networking is a big deal, definitely, but if maybe you're a sophomore sitting in here and you're going to go for the first time and you're just there to check it out, kudos to you for doing that. So for when you're juniors and seniors, you'll know exactly what to expect, and you won't have those nerves that we were talking about earlier.
Excellent. I'm glad that you brought up LinkedIn because I'm curious, how important is having a LinkedIn profile or general like social media presence? Do your companies check that when you're looking at hiring candidates? Do you like to be connected with those people on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I don't check anybody else's like social media platforms. Just really with LinkedIn, I think it's a really beneficial tool for immediate purposes as well as us recruiters sometimes do sourcing. So where we try to find people for jobs if people aren't applying. I love LinkedIn just to kind of send connections, see who's open to new opportunities. So without a LinkedIn profile, it's kind of one of those where how else can you really market yourself in a professional way? So I highly recommend having an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd certainly echo that, and just make sure that LinkedIn is business, and Facebook and the other apps are for more personal and pleasure, and keep it business professional on the LinkedIn profile. Certainly want to keep it up to date. It's not an end-all be-all type thing, but it really is a nice platform to stay connected from a business standpoint, and you never know who will come across your profile or who you find out that you're connected with, being able to see the connections that they have. I'd certainly advise you, as you are sitting down for the actual interviews themselves, to do some research on the individual that you're interviewing with. It goes a long way. It's a step further. I think most people are told to do the research on the company, but to be able to take that a step further on the person you're meeting with in that meeting means a lot.
Bow out of that one.
Just to add on, also aside from connecting with individuals, you can also connect and stay attuned to organizations. I know a lot of the times they will have articles or feeds on, like, let's say Target, and you can just keep up with things going on within their organization. And I know there's also sometimes positions or applications that you can actually just apply right on LinkedIn. And I know that's a pretty handy tool too. And if you need more information about LinkedIn, I know the Career Development Center does LinkedIn seminars that you can definitely attend, or the career counselors can help build your LinkedIn profiles as well.
The only thing I'm going to add about LinkedIn is if an online application or an online application asks for a resume, I do not like it when someone just attaches their LinkedIn profile instead of a resume. So I don't know if you guys see that a lot, but it's a dead giveaway that I've then reviewed their stuff and then they're all over me. I just don't find it as appealing when someone attaches that versus an actual resume. So I do think LinkedIn is helpful, but not in lieu of a resume.
All right. So we're going to wrap up with one final question. Do you have any last pieces of advice for students going to this fair or to any other fair? Anything that you haven't had a chance to share?
Just run down the line. I'll just say be open-minded. I mentioned earlier, maybe someone's going to steal you out of a line that you're standing in for a different table. Like I said, most people don't know what my company is about. We have tons of opportunities in our company, and I know people are going to list their 5, the 10, the 15 that they want to see, and then after that, they're going to go to the big name companies that they know, the 3Ms, the Targets. And you might walk right by our table, and I would just say have that open mind, because there is so much opportunity out there right here in our backyard that you'd be missing out on if you weren't willing just to talk to somebody because they said hi to you.
Again, just reiterating, I would again say be prepared as much as you can, making that your 5 to 10 list, having that background information that you have, that knowledge that you have in your head, having those questions for the employers that you want to ask them, possibly submitting applications on their online website if that's a possibility for you. But ultimately, making sure you make those connections and making sure that the values that you guys are looking for as far as internships or jobs align with your own, and you are definitely interested in those companies that you're talking to.
Yeah, my advice certainly at the fair is also to keep an open mind. I was that person that was going to work at Target or going to work at 3M, and I do not work there. And I love SPS, and it's one of those where I can definitely continue to do the open mind. But my advice, if I can, not career fair related, is always keep your resume on you. You have no idea who you're going to run into. You know, we could be talking to somebody later after this and be like, oh, I'd love to see your resume, and like, oh, I got to email that to you, which that will get lost in the mix. I have a VP at Capital One connection of mine that I've been working with for 6 years now, and he's one of the greatest mentors to me and one of my greatest network connections, because I met with him at on a panel similar to this, and he's like, oh yeah, just, you know, let me see your resume. I was like, oh, I have it right here, and pulled it out, and he was really impressed by that. So I recommend, you know, a nice folder just somewhere in your backpack. There's already stuff in there, but make sure you have copies of your resumes.
Yeah, be open-minded. I think it's great. Have fun with it. I mean, the more you can be yourself and have that confidence, the better you'll show. And certainly recommend talking to as many people as you can. And again, I think most of you probably haven't heard of Robert Half or Account Temps or Office Team or the various divisions, but I'd certainly invite you. We'll be there. Stop over, or even after this if you want to stick around. It's just a very unique, kind of different thing that most professors and counselors don't necessarily even know all the ins and outs of as well, because there's just so many nuances to it. But I think just in being open with all the companies that you speak with, you'll find, I think, surprisingly, maybe some things out there that you didn't even think of as you were going through school for potential career opportunities.
Also, we forgot to mention that there is some swag back on the table back there, so feel free to grab whatever you want. Whatever you leave, we have to pack up and bring back, so take as much as you want, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we I announce the door prize winners, we owe a couple rounds of applause. First and foremost, for our panelists for the excellent advice that they just shared with us. And then second of all, for the staff in the Career Development Center for helping to put this together. Without them, this would be impossible. Okay, so Jennifer is going to come down with the cards.
I've got more advice too, actually, now that I think about it. Utilize your career services as much as you can. Obviously, you guys are an elite few to make it here today, but push on your buddies, push on your friends a little bit more to leverage them more, because there's a lot of neat companies that are connecting with them. And the more intentional you are about your job search, the more they can hands-on help you and get you into some places that may not even have job postings online. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay.